Hello, everyone, and welcome to Swords of the Serpentine. We are playing at Gauntlet Community Open Gaming in October of 2021. My name is Mike, and I'll be your game master. A little bit about the Gauntlet. The Gauntlet is an online role-playing gaming community. It's free to join. We run about 100 games a month on an open calendar that anyone can sign up for. We focus on indie RPGs, story games, and OSR games. It's a lot of fun. I've been a member of the Gauntlet since 2018, and I've been GMing on the Gauntlet for the past couple of years. It's a really great community. I highly recommend them. This is Gauntlet Community Open Gaming. We run 3 or 4 of these a year, and it's a way that we kind of open up our calendar and have a bunch of GMs that just run a bunch of games for people that haven't played with the Gauntlet before, or plenty of old hats who've been with the Gauntlet for a long time. It's kind of a mini convention. This is the second game of GCOG of this GCOG that I've run, and I've got 2 more. I've got 2 more in the next couple of days, so a lot of fun. If you're interested in learning more about the Gauntlet, check out gauntlet-rpg.com. We're also a podcast network, and we also publish a mostly monthly gaming magazine called Codex. Anyway, so welcome. Let me a little bit about myself. My name is Mike. My pronouns are he, him. I've been playing tabletop role-playing games for a long time. I started back in the 80s. Got my teeth on Dungeons & Dragons Basic Expert Edition, and then Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. I mostly played D&D in the 80s. I mostly played GURPS in the 90s. I mostly played D&D 3rd edition in the aughts, and then mostly Pathfinder in the teens until about 2015 when I fell into the indie games pool. And Powered by the Apocalypse games kind of broke my brain in a good way, and it's been kind of hard to go back to traditional. I still dabble in trad games. I still have a toe in the Pathfinder community, but mostly I've been playing a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse, Gumshoe, Fate, and Trophy in the past few years. It's kind of where my interests are. This game is Swords of the Serpentine. It's a Gumshoe game, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Well, I've yapped my jaw a lot thus far. Let's go around the table and do some real quick introductions. Let's go clockwise around my gallery view. Bjorn, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Bjorn, pronouns he, him. This is my second GCOG. I played Dino Island a while back. It was a lot of fun. I've been role-playing for a long time. I started out with Heroes Unlimited and World of Darkness, Rifts, that sort of thing. Worked my way through Exalted, a little bit of D&D here and there, but not a ton. And then got into Powered by the Apocalypse the last few years, and I've been doing that pretty exclusively. Yeah. Should be fun.
Fantastic, and welcome. Mario, would you say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Mario. I use he, him pronouns. I also started with some kind of the classics, Shadowrun and D&D, vampire, stuff like that. And then at a convention, I played Dungeon World, and it was like, so yeah, okay, got in there. More PBTA, more Forged in the Dark, and now here I am trying out Gumshoe, which is the first time I do that. So yeah, I'm excited for that.
Awesome, and welcome. And Rod, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi, I'm Rod, he, him. I only joined the Gauntlet recently. I joined this year, and without exception, the people are very nice. I've had a lot of fun. I guess like the others, I've played, different systems. But this is my first time playing Swords of the Serpentine and any Gumshoe game, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, fantastic. Welcome, everyone. Kind of honored to be your first Gumshoe GM. Swords of the Serpentine was my introduction to the Gumshoe system. Kind of like Powered by the Apocalypse in that, it it's more of a design framework than a system per se, and different Gumshoe games approach the system a bit differently. So baseline, there's a lot the same across, but I mean, comparing, say, Swords of the Serpentine to, say, the Yellow King is kind of like comparing, say, Dungeon World to, I don't know, like Brindlewood Bay. Yeah, you got the same core dice mechanic, but the game plays out very differently. You got different move lists, etc., and likewise in different Gumshoe games, you've got different types of investigative abilities and different ways to spend your points. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's talk a little bit about this game. So Swords of the Serpentine is a sword and sorcery. It's the Gumshoe game of sword and sorcery. I have found that this game really shines when you're trying to emulate the genres of like 1960s, 70s, and 80s swords and sorcery fiction. So the touchstones for this game are things like Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, the Thieves' World shared world anthology, edited by Robert Lynn Asprin. To a lesser extent, Conan the Barbarian and Red Sonja, and like Marion Zimmer Bradley's Sword and Sorceress anthology series. So magic's real, magic's bad. It's very much a human-centric world. There may be non-human intelligent creatures out there, but those rumors of serpent people are just totally rumors. They're absolutely not real. No. Don't look too hard. You'll never actually find them. So let's talk about CATS. This is a kind of an elevator pitch for the game. CATS stands for concept, aim, tone, and subject matter. So the concept of this game is this is a sword and sorcery game that uses the Gumshoe framework. Why Gumshoe for sword and sorcery? Gumshoe is an investigative game, and sword and sorcery is usually about fighting and magic, right? Well, if you go back and read, Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser stories or Conan the Barbarian stories, there's oftentimes investigation. Fafhrd and the Mouser, they need to figure out how to get into the rich guy's house to knock it over. They need to learn, they hear rumors about the Dragon's Hoard, and they need to figure out how to get into the Dragon's Hoard. So they're getting clues and they're doing some level of investigation, but the investigation is leading to generally some kind of fight. If you've played other Gumshoe games, you normally know that if you've gotten into a fight in Gumshoe, you've usually done something wrong. Not true here. We use the system works really well for combat, and I think this is one of the more fun kind of semi-crunchy combat systems I've come across. I really like it, and we'll get into that when we talk about the rules. So that's the concept of Swords of the Serpentine. The aim is to tell a good rollicking adventure in the sword and sorcery genre. So we're going to have some danger, we're going to have some weird magic, we're going to have some nasty villains that you won't necessarily feel too bad about running your sword through. The tone I'm shooting for is going to be kind of like action adventure. I'd probably say if this were an action, I'd probably it kind of depends. I've run this game for kids, in which case I try to keep it PG-13. We seem to be all adults here, so I'll probably push a little farther into some of the more grimmer things here and there. I don't want this to get too dark, but there's going to be some darkness here. If this were a movie, I'd probably rate it a moderate R, kind of like along the lines of the original Arnold Schwarzenegger Conan the Barbarian movie. Some aim, tone, and subject matter. So this game takes this adventure that we're going to be playing. It's going to start out on a ship. We're going to have a short amount of high seas adventure to sort of like get our feet wet with the combat system. And then we'll move into a fantasy city. that's sort of based on kind of a medieval Venice with a whole lot of like weird magic stuff going on. And we'll talk about that a little bit once we get to the city. I'll give a brief overview of like some of the stuff you need to know about the city to understand how things work. That's concept, aim, tone, and subject matter of this game. Oh, yeah. One other thing about subject matter, just content warnings. They were on the game description on the calendar. This may get a little dark at times. So there will be themes of themes of corpses, undeath, black magic, demons, piracy. Some people might end up overboard, and there may be an issue of drowning or people being eaten by sharks, that kind of thing. I'm going to try not to dwell on the gore, but it's a sword and sorcery movie. People are going to die. Any questions on concept, aim, tone, or subject matter? Awesome. Does everyone have a link to the character keeper? Okay, if you go to the character keeper and go to the third tab, which is called safety and resources, we're going to talk about what safety practices that we're going to be using for this game. We always use safety practices here at the Gauntlet. It's a requirement for anything that we run here, and even if it wasn't, I'd be using them anyway. Each of us have a different set of life experiences, and things that might be absolutely okay for you to discuss or to play within a game world might be I might react very differently to. I might have a problem with, or I might have had very bad experiences with in the past. So we're going to be using a layered set of safety practices that will hopefully, if not eliminate, will hopefully mitigate the potential of emotionally upsetting each other. Because what it boils down to is we're a bunch of strangers that are getting together over the internet to play a game, and the point of this is to have fun, and it's not to relive our personal trauma. Each of us individually is more important than this game we're playing, and your personal, emotional, and physical safety is paramount, and is far more important than us playing this game. We're supposed to have, this is supposed to be fun, and we don't want to, we don't want to let anyone get upset over it, because it's just a game. We're going to be taking a layered approach to safety. We're going to be working with 3 safety tools, and let me go over them briefly. So the first and most basic is called Open Door. Open Door is about your personal physical comfort. An open door just means anyone can come and go from this game as they please. If you need to step out to do something, if you want to collect your thoughts, if you, need to get your dog off of the dining room table, or if a courier comes to the door, yeah, step away from the table. Come on back when you're ready. Likewise, anyone can call a break at any time. So if you need a bio break, if you need to get a glass of water, yeah, say, hey, folks, can we take a 2-minute break? And the answer is absolutely. Speaking of breaks, I'm going to be calling breaks generally at the top of the hour. This game is scheduled to go 4 hours. I found that we'll probably need the whole time. Ideally, I'd run this adventure as a 2-shot, but I can make it work as a 1-shot. That's Open Door. Any questions about Open Door? One other thing I forgot to mention about Open Door. If we get into this game and you decide that this game isn't for me, that's absolutely fine. Life is too short to play a game that you're not enjoying. And if you come to the conclusion that this game ain't for me, absolutely fine. Say, hey, folks, I'm going to go do something else. To which point we say, cool, have a great day. Hope to catch you again at some point in the future. The only thing I would ask, if you are going to leave and not come back, I would appreciate letting us know that you're not planning to come back. Although, sometimes you may not know. So if you don't, you don't. If you don't come back in a reasonable amount of time, we'll just move on without you. The next tool we're going to talk about is called Lines and Veils, and this is a proactive safety practice where we call out We call out specific subject matters that we may find problematic or upsetting, or we just don't want to deal with. So we've got 3 columns on this, and I've got a list on our page of a number of issues and subject matters that some people just may not want to deal with in a game. A line, if a subject is lined, that means it will not appear in the game, period. I won't introduce it, you won't introduce it. If I'm running a published adventure, which I am, if that subject matter is in the module, I'll just write around it, replace it with something else, do something else entirely. So line is, we aren't going to see it in the game. We're not going to deal with it at all. If a subject matter is veiled, that means it's a subject matter we're going to treat very, very, very cautiously. If a subject is veiled, we may find, you may find evidence that it happened. We may find, we may acknowledge that this sort of thing happens in the world, but we're not going to dwell on it. It's not going to happen on camera, and it's certainly not going to happen to a PC. So we'll either cut away, we'll address it really briefly and move on, or we'll cut away, fade to black, and pick up the next scene. Finally, there's a 3rd column, which is ask first, and that just means this is a subject matter that you may find okay in some contexts, but not in others, in which case, if that subject matter is going to be introduced in the game, we're going to pause, step out of the game, have an out-of-game discussion about what parameters we want to put this subject in, and then make sure everyone's okay before proceeding, and if not, we'll do something else. So that's lines and veils. I am going to actually pause the. Okay, we recorded our lines and veils. The next tool I want to talk about is called the X card. The X card is a reactive safety tool. This is, you invoke the X card when anything that's happening at the table is making you uncomfortable or is approaching something that you just don't want to deal with. That can be something that happens in game, whether that's whether that's a situation that you don't like the direction that the plot is going, you can X card that, and we'll and we'll do something else. If I've introduced an NPC that is a name that is the bully that beat you up in 3rd grade, and you absolutely hate that name, that's fine. This NPCs aren't real; they don't exist. I'll just change their name. It's fine. It could be something that happens interpersonally, whether someone is consistently getting your name wrong, or someone is talking over you, or someone is constantly interrupting you, or is explaining the rules to you in a condescending manner. Absolutely, X card. We'll have a discussion about that. It doesn't X card does not have to be things that happen specifically in the game. It can be other behaviors at the table that we need to address. And to invoke the X card, say X card. You just say, "Hey, folks, I don't want to do that." You can make, or we're on video, so you can make an X card gesture. I think the dice roller we're going to be using has an X card button that you can use. We've also all got chat. You can put something in the chat. I'm trying my best to look at that, but saying something verbally is probably the best. When you invoke the X card, we're going to pause the game. We're going to have a discussion of this as players of this game to figure out, what do we need to remove, what thing do we need to address, and how do we fix it. You don't need to tell us why, but we do need to know what and how far back we need to go to either change things in the story or to address a behavior by another player that you're not comfortable with. 2 other things I want to talk about the X card. One is, if something happened in the game and made you feel, I don't really like that, but I'm not going to make a big deal of it, and we move on, and you move on, and you don't X card it, and it happens again, and you're like, well, 2 isn't too bad. And it happens again. It's absolutely okay to X card something that you let slide in the past. Just because we've established something the first time doesn't mean you can't X card it in the future. That's absolutely fine. The other thing that the X card is very useful for is if our enthusiasm for play, we've taken our eyes off the lines and veils, and you see that we're approaching one. Please X and you know, no one else notices. If you notice, please X card and let us know that we are approaching a line or a veil, and that we need to redirect things. I have been in, you know, I've been guilty of that myself. As you know, took my eye off the lines and veils list and went somewhere I should not have, and that was a failure of me as a GM. And I was very, very happy that one of my players X-carded and brought me back to where I should have been. That's the X card. Anyone have any questions on that? Okay. This isn't exactly a safety tool. I just want to put this out there. If something happens that causes me to disappear, whether I freeze and then go, whether my internet connection freezes, or you know, I look concernedly to my left, take my headphones off, and walk off camera, and then I don't come back for 10 minutes. If I've been gone for 10 minutes and I haven't tried to contact you either via Discord or via email, assume something has happened and the game is over. My internet connection is usually pretty stable, but I have lost it in the past, and I have lost it in the past while I was GMing a game, so it happens. So if I'm gone for 10 minutes and I don't let you know that, hey, folks, I'll be back in 5 or something like that, assume the game is over and take the rest of your day. Do we have any questions on our safety practices? Awesome. Okay, if you want to click over to the PCs tab, we will. I'm going to talk a little bit about the rules of this game. Hopefully going to give you just enough to help you make some informed decisions about what kind of characters you want to play, and a little bit of how they work. So Gumshoe is at its heart, it's a skill-based system, and on the indie versus trad scale, it kind of falls more on the trads, on the traditional side of things. So it's got a little bit more in common with, say, you know, a GURPS or a Champions or even a Call of Cthulhu than it does with a true story game, although it's got a lot of story game elements to it. So if you've been playing a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse or Trophy or Forged in the Dark, where, you know, all the dice rolls were player facing, the GM rolls in this game. So there will be some opposed rolls here and there. But when it comes to rolls, you're pretty much only rolling 1d6 ever. The basic resolution in this game is you roll a d6. You may or may not be adding some kind of a modifier, and I'll talk about that. And you're trying to beat a target number, and that target number, I will tell you what the target number you're trying to beat ahead of time, and that target number is usually going to be either a 3 or a 4. Occasionally it might be higher than that, but that's, you know, but it's usually going to be, you're trying to get you're trying to meet or exceed the target number. So if the target is 3, if you get a 3, you succeed. If the target is 4, if you get a 4, you succeed. If you fail to meet that, that's generally a failure. So this does have a pass-fail resolution system. I'm enough of a PBTA player that, you know, if it's cool, I might impose a succeed with cost sort of thing, but that's not really part of the game. And I mostly will only do that in times of like where it's, you know, really high drama. Skills. There are 2 kinds of skills in this game. You have investigative abilities and you have general abilities. Let's talk about the general abilities first. So the general abilities are the ones that are general abilities affect dice rolls. So if you're skilled in something, you have a number. So with all skills, whether investigative or general, you have a rank in that skill, and that rank is equal to the number of points in a pool that you have to spend for that ability. If you spend your points, you still have that number of ranks in the ability. And, you know, so that's important. Your ability to do stuff doesn't go down as you spend points from your ability point pool. For general abilities, you'll spend your points to affect your die roll. Like for example, when you're fighting, the general ability for like physical combat is usually warfare. So when you make your attack roll in warfare, you decide how many points of your point pool you want to spend on your roll, and you add that to your die. So in general, if the target is 3, if you spend 2 points, that means no matter what you roll, you're going to succeed. If the target is 4, if you spend 3 points, no matter how well you roll, you're going to succeed. If you roll really well, if you exceed the target by 5, you get a critical. That's a critical, and then extra stuff happens in combat. That's usually that usually means you can do an extra die of damage. And yeah, this game basically has an armor class and a hit point system where you're trying to beat a target number, and then you do hit point damage. Unlike a lot of other games, this game has 2 sets of hit points. You have a health. You have health, which is your physical. You also have a morale rating, and that does. You also have a morale rating, and you can do sway attacks to attack an opponent's morale. If you get, if you do sufficient physical damage to an opponent, you can knock them out of the fight, and you can decide whether that means you've knocked them out or disabled them or killed them. If you get someone, if you do enough morale damage to an opponent, they'll surrender or run away. You can defeat someone purely by morale, which I think is kind of cool. And there's ways, and we'll get into it in a little combat. There is a way that, for example, if you're primarily like a sway fighter, where you mostly are trying to psych your foes out, there's a way that you can do what's called a teamwork attack. So you can use your sway attack to help an ally's physical attack, and vice versa. We'll talk about that a little bit once we actually get into a combat. So yeah, with general abilities are where chance comes into play. So general abilities, when you use them, you're going to roll and try to hit a target number, and you can spend a number of points from your pool to affect that, to add it as a bonus to your die roll, to do more, to try to succeed. If you have 8 or more ranks in abilities, you get an extra benefit, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Investigative abilities. Now, this is the real magic of Gumshoe. If you are skilled in an investigative ability, and you're trying to find a clue using that ability, you will find the clue. So if there's a clue in the game and it says it's going to be found by, if you are, say, trying to get information out of the bartender, the bartender will have information, and it'll be, mentioned here that the bartender may give this information under these circumstances. So generally, you'd need to use one of your social skills, whether that's charm or intimidation or command, to get this guy to tell you what he's got. And again, if you have the skill and you're using the skill, you'll get the clue. Your number of ranks, again, equals the number of pool points that you can spend. And if you spend a pool point, you'll get something extra. You'll either, if you're looking for clues and you spend a pool point, I'll give you more information to help you interpret that clue. You can also, depending on other things, when you spend pool points, that can also just kind of like juice your result to get you more and more interesting effects. If you want to, you can combine your investigative abilities with your general abilities if it makes sense. If you want to, say, spend an investigative point to help a general ability, you can spend one for a plus. You can spend investigative for general points on a 1 to 3 basis. So 1 investigative point will give you a +3 on a roll. Don't usually recommend that because general abilities refresh much more quickly than your investigative, but you can do that. The other thing you can do in combat is spend an investigative point to do an extra die of damage. And you just tell us how this is going to affect your roll, how this is going to affect the result, and you get the extra damage die. So for example, if you have the no monstr, if you're the warrior with the no monstrosities skill, and you're fighting a monster, you could conceivably, like in combat, when you hit, you can declare that I want to spend a point of no monstrosities to do an extra die of damage. One other thing to keep in mind when you're spending general ability points, the minimum amount of damage that your lowest die can do is the number of points you spent. So for example, if you spent 3 points on in combat, if you spent 3 points on warfare to make a hit, when you roll your dice, if the lowest individual die that you rolled was less than a 3, that gets bumped up to a 3 when we add them together. So that's a lot of info I just threw at you. Well, it'll make more sense once we actually get into the game. So we've got 6 characters here, and they're kind of all like archetypes. They're representative of archetypes of sword and sorcery characters. 2 of them have kind of paired backstories. We don't have to have, if we have one, we don't have to have their counterpart. But we have, so our choices are Kaluska Longscream, who is kind of your barbarian type. She's clearly based on Fafford from the Fafford and the Grey Mouser series. We have Quill the Finder, the Hunter the Clever. She's a thief. She's your roguish type, clearly based on the Grey Mouser. And Kaluska and Quill have some backstory that interacts. So if we have Kaluska and Quill in the same group, we've got a little bit of like built-in backstory there. They definitely have a Fafford and the Grey Mouser relationship. Next up, we have Lucrezia Swanhall, Vigilant of Dinari. She's sort of your paladin type. We're going to be in the city of Eversink. That is the greatest city in the world, and it's called Eversink because it's built on a swamp, and the cities are slow, and the buildings are all slowly sinking into the swamp, and have been for hundreds of years. And as the buildings sink into the swamp, people just build on top of them, which means that this city is just full of layers and layers and layers of dungeon levels that are now below the level of the water. Which is kind of cool. So yeah, people are constantly building up as the buildings sink deeper and deeper and deeper into the swamp. These buildings have been sinking for hundreds of years, and they continue to sink. No one's really sure where the bottom is, or if there even is one. Dinari is the patron goddess of Eversink. Dinari is the goddess of commerce. Her holy book is called, the holy book of Dinari is called the prayer book and tax laws of Dinari. Murder is certainly a crime. Tax fraud is an even bigger crime. The other thing about Dinari is, in some ways, Dinari is Eversink and Eversink is Dinari. Dinari, the goddess herself, actually lives in Eversink. There's a holy island. So the city of Eversink, it's built on an archipelago of islands in just off of the river delta of the Great Serpentine River. And one of these islands is the holy island of Dinari, and nobody goes there. The story is that anyone who sets foot on Dinari's holy island will never leave. You can see the island, you can sail past the island, but you don't want to land there. Why? There are many stories. Lucrezia is one of the vigilants of Dinari, who is there to enforce church law. So she's kind of the paladin. The next character we have up is Accipitus of the Many Eyes, who is a sorcerer. If someone chooses Accipitus, we'll talk a little bit more about sorcery, but in a nutshell, sorcerous magic is bad. There are two sources of magic in the world that humans can control. One is, the small gods or small demons that are whispering secrets into your ear, and you're tapping into their power to invoke true magic. The other source of magic is the ancient Serpentine people that once lived here. They have left writings around, and people who have studied the ancient writings of the Serpentine people, have been known to have one of the runes crawl off the tablet and into their ear and infect their brain with knowledge of magic. Magic is bad, just straight up. There's no good magic in this world. Whenever you cast a spell of true power, the investigative ability that powers magic is called corruption. So when you cast a spell and empower it with true power, you're causing a powerful magical effect, but at the same time, you're also infecting the world with some kind of corruption that's linked to your source of magic. And that infuses and you have a choice. You can either infuse the world with this corruption, in which case it can, you can feel it. It cuts off Dinari's blessings. It cuts off Dinari's blessings if you cast it in the city, or it brings like weird. It makes a thin place where like ghosts and spirits will be attracted to, or it can cause like physical decay and cause a physical manifestation in the world. Causing corruption in the world is very, very illegal, and if you do it too much, you're going to get the authorities after you. The other way you can do it is internalize it and corrupt your own body. And the more you do it, the more your body will be twisted in some way, which again is related to the source of magic. So if your source of magic is the Serpentine people, the more magic you cast and the more you internalize the corruption, basically you start to turn into a serpent person yourself. If your source is some kind of a demon, if your source is a demon or some other entity, your body would be corrupted by whatever their source of influence is. When you use sorcery as a weapon, you certainly can, and it works just the same as sway in warfare. It's a general ability. Depending on what sphere of magic you are using, that'll affect either health or morale. And you define that when you define how your sphere works. Other than that, magic is really open-ended. It's just you tell us what effect you want to do. I'll tell you whether or not you need to burn a corruption point to make that effect. And it just happens. You can burn, and we cast spells in combat. That'll be using the sorcery general ability. You don't have to infuse your magic with sorcery, with corruption points. My general rule of thumb is if the effect that you want to create could be made by mundane means, you don't need to spend the corruption points. You don't need to spend corruption points in order to power your magic. If the thing you want to do could only be done by magic, then you must spend corruption points. And even if it's a mundane effect, if you want to, like really empower it, then you can put some corruption points into. So, like for example, if you want to use, if you have like the air sphere and you want to use your magic to, because you're too lazy to get out of your chair, you want to use air magic to like pick up the bottle of wine that's across the room and bring it to you. You don't need to spend corruption on that because you could conceivably get out of your, get your lazy ass out of the chair, walk over and pick up the bottle of wine. if you wanted to turn the if you didn't have any wine and you wanted to turn a pitcher of water into a pitcher of wine, then that would require magic. So you would need to actually burn a point of corruption to do that, although that might be kind of a waste of a corruption point. You know, if you want to, you know, so that's, so my rule of thumb is if you don't need to use magic for it, you don't have to spend corruption, but if it's a clearly magical effect, you must. And the more points of corruption you spend on a magic, the bigger the effect, and also the more corruption gets put into the world. And if someone picks one of the magic users, we have two characters in the list that do have sorcery. If someone wants to pick one, we'll talk a little bit about more on that when it comes up. So the last two characters on our list are Lorenzo and Lord Caglio. Lord Caglio is kind of a, you know, he's kind of a pompous, you know, he's kind of a pompous rich guy who is actually a competent warrior. But he's really all about show. He's really all about, a lot about bluster. And he does have this servant that follows him around, Lorenzo, who's, you know, who he often doesn't even remember his name. Lorenzo is, of course, a bodyguard hired by Lord Caglio's mother to keep Lord Caglio safe, and he is basically, he's an undercover assassin. Lorenzo does also have some sorcery, so if you pick Lorenzo, he's got a small amount of sorcery that he could conceivably use. One other thing I just want to mention that's on the character sheet. I think there's a stuff about true name. I don't think we're going to play with true names here, so we can pretty much just ignore that line. That comes up in more like deeper play. But the other thing are drives. In a scene, if you say that what you're doing is following one of your drives, you can check it off for the scene, and you can get a free +1 on a general ability roll. You know, so if Kaluska, you know, so if Kaluska's, you know, like decides that, oh well, I'm mowing down my enemies here with my axe, so oh yes, I'm absolutely drowning enemies in blood. You can check that off for the scene, and you can get a +1 on one of your attack rolls, and those refresh at the scene. Well, that's the other thing about refresh. Your general abilities refresh whenever we enter a new scene, so you can go ahead and fight all you want, burn all your points in a fight. In the next fight, they're back. As long as you had a chance to catch your breath and take a breather, your general abilities refresh at the next scene. Your investigative abilities don't. Those generally refresh at the end of the adventure, or when the GM says that enough time's passed, that will refresh. And I'm just going to tell you, we're going to have an opening scene that's going to walk us through how we're going to have an opening scene on the high seas. It's going to start with a fight. We're going to have a combat. It's not going to be super long, but it's going to be enough to get your feet wet with the combat system. And I will just tell you, at the end of that combat scene, I'm going to have you refresh your, you can refresh your investigative points. Okay, I threw a lot at you. Hopefully that's enough for you to make some informed decisions on the kind of characters you might be interested in play. Does anyone have any anyone leaning toward one of these characters or another?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do Acipitous.
Oh, awesome, fantastic.
We were talking about it in the chat a little bit.
Okay. So we've got Acipitous. I see in the chat, looks like Mario might be leaning toward Quill. Okay, you have Quill. And either jumping out at you, Rod.
So there are times when I have trouble deciding. I will figure this out in a minute.
That's okay. Take all the time you need.
Thanks.
And just once we've picked characters, looks like we're coming up at the top of the hour. Once we've picked characters, I think I'll call I think we'll call a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back, and then we'll actually start play. One thing on the character keeper, if you hover over one of the abilities, I've got it set that it gives you a really brief description of what that ability does and how you might use it. So I've tried to incorporate as many of the rules into the actual character sheet itself. There's also a rules overview tab that kind of goes over the basic rules of this game. So if you're looking to play a fighter type, Kaleska is a barbarian, and Lord Caglio is also very much a fighter type. They're primarily warriors.
I guess Lucrezia is also a fighter.
Lucrezia is also kind of a fighter. Yep, she's a Vigilant of Dinari. She's an enforcer, so she's kind of like a paladin. She has a few. She doesn't have any sorcery because sorcery is frowned upon by the Church of Dinari. That doesn't mean it's illegal. Casting sorcery is not illegal. Corrupting the city is.
So I think I'm going to play Lucrezia.
I'm going to play Lucrezia. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Not sure what it's going to do for the party unity. But...
Nope, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so I'm going to hide Kaleska. Hide columns. So we've got Quill, Lucrezia, and Ocipitus. I'm going to hide Lorenzo and Lord Caglio. Fantastic. Okay, we have our characters. I've gone over the rules. I've gone over our safety tools. Let's take a 10-minute break. I've got 3 minutes after. Let's come back at 13 past, and I'll set the scene, and we'll start playing. And we're back. All right. So let me get to the opening scene. Okay. Yeah, let's get started. One thing I like about the adventure. So we're going to be running the adventure Corpse Astray. This is the introductory adventure that's going to be in the Swords of the Serpentine core rulebook when it is released. I think they're shooting for Christmas, unless international supply chain issues prevent it yet again. It was supposed to be out last year, and Pellegrin's having some issues with getting the actual book published. I was one of the initial playtesters of this game, so actually my name's going to be in the credits as a playtester. We started playing, one of my gaming groups started playing Swords of the Serpentine back in, I want to say, November of 2017. We intended to run this intro adventure. The GM of my home group at the time was a personal friend of Kevin Culp, who is one of the co-authors, and agreed to run the intro session for one or possibly 2 game sessions and then give feedback. We loved the game so much that we played a Swords of the Serpentine campaign spontaneously for the next 10 months, and we actually gave quite a lot of feedback. How Magic works now is a bit different than how it worked originally, and a lot of that was from, I won't say exclusively, but we gave a lot of feedback. I played a sorcerer the first time around, and I think the Magic system as it exists now is a big improvement over that initial playtest edition. Anyway, so we're going to jump right into the action. We're going to start in media res. So the 3 of you are aboard the ship, the Shining Coin, which is a 20 crew member cargo vessel. Its master is Captain Otto Barani, who is a competent tradesman who works for the Mercanti faction. They're the merchants. I guess I'm going to go around. So where are you? So I'm going to ask, where are you coming from? I'm just going to state that the three of you went off on some kind of adventure of some sort, some kind of quest that was ultimately unsuccessful, and now you're returning back more or less empty-handed. So I'm just going to go around the table real quick and just to establish a wee bit of backstory here. I'll ask one of you, what were you after? I'm going to ask one of you, what did you do to try to, what did you do to try to get it? And I'll ask the third, as to like, what insurmountable obstacle did you face such that you had to, what obstacle that you weren't able to overcome, like caused you to abandon this quest? I guess I'm just going to call people. Let's go in reverse. I'm going to go in anti-clockwise order around my gallery view. So Rod, what were the three of you after outside of the city? Like why did you leave, and where did you go?
Right. So I'll say it was a chalice that was stolen from one of the main cathedral in Dinari. So I took it upon myself to go after the culprit, not on orders, but I did ask the other two if they'd be interested in helping.
Got it. I think we can just say, for the sake of argument, that the three of you have been friends and like at least off and on co-adventurers for some time. So you've got some kind of backstory, and we can flesh out the backstory as time goes on. So yeah, okay, I love it. Somebody stole a chalice from the Cathedral of Dinari and took it to, we'll just say, some other city. And you went to try to get it back. Mario, what obstacle did you face in this other city?
Does it have to be in the city, or can it be
Not
just?
Not necessarily. What obstacle did you face?
Animals which were larger than normally.
Giant animals. Were these in the sea, like basically sea monsters?
Yeah, maybe, why not?
Okay. And Bjorn, why don't you tell us like what you did to try to overcome this, and why you decided it was time to head back home empty-handed, at least for now.
So I'm going to say that we tried to get past the sea monsters by first distracting them. We offered a sacrifice, maybe a goat, but then it turned out that they were actually under the command of somebody from the city, rather than like they were being sorcerously controlled, we realized, and so that wasn't going to work. And we watched them eat another ship and decided, you know what? We can make new chalices.
Nice. I'm just updating people's names on the screen so I can remember who is who. One practice, I'm just stepping into the metagame a little bit. Like a lot of story games, we'll occasionally be hopping in and out of character, where I'll ask you the player's stuff, kind of like what we did now. And other times I'll be asking you the characters, what you're doing in the game. And I just like to have both your player and your character name here as a reference, so I know which one to use. So give me just a moment to finish that. And you're playing Lucrezia. Okay, got name set. Cool. All right. So it's been a couple of days since you basically the captain kind of like ordered you to turn back because this is not a fighting ship and your magic wasn't able to overcome these weird sea monsters. So you turned around and you're setting back to your home port of Eversink. I'll say about 3 hours ago, the crewman in the crow's nest, shouted "sail ho." The captain used his spyglass and unfortunately identified the identified the black flag of the notorious pirate Pressure Coin Tongue, who is one of the most notorious pirates that raids these sea lanes. And her ship, the Squandered Hope, is smaller than the ship you're on, but at the same time is much faster and is much better armed. In that her ship is armed and yours kind of isn't. A sea chase ensued, and ultimately the Squandered Hope caught up with you. They disabled. They were able to. They used a catapult to throw. Used a catapult to throw weighted chains at your sails, and they took off like the top part of your main mast, which greatly slowed you down. They then pulled up alongside. They've put boarding planks, grappling hooks, and the two ships are now side by side. And a bunch of pirates are coming over the rails. The captain is not a fighter, nor are his sailors. Once the ships came about, most of the sailors went below decks and closed the hatches to sort of protect themselves, at least for now. And it's the three of you who are basically here to defend the ship. So we're going to start. So everyone's at full health. Everyone's at full count of all of your pools, and we're going to have a quick fight with some pirates to kind of get our feet wet with the system. So I'm just looking at. So when the captain identified, I'm just going to give you some information because people have the appropriate skills. Lucrezia, when you hear Captain Barani shout, "Oh no, it's a Squandered Hope under command of notorious pirate Pressure Coin Tongue." You've heard of Pressure Coin Tongue because you have the skill Felonious Intent. Pressure Coin Tongue is the captain of the Squandered Hope. Hey, she's got a price on her head. Dead or alive. You know that Captain Coin Tongue is infamous for she's infamous for putting a coin under the tongue of people she's killed just before they throw the corpse overboard as an offering to the strange sea gods she reveres. So, I don't have a map. This is going to just be theater of the mind. You saw the pirates coming, so you can take whatever positions on the ship you want to have as the enemies start coming aboard. Where would you like to be on the ship?
So is Prussia also leading, or is she on her ship, or is she coming aboard?
She is on her ship for now. She will probably come aboard. Usually the way this works is they're going to send a bunch of like cutthroats aboard to kind of soften up the defenses before the named heroes come. And a little bit about the combat system. I'll just tell you right now, the pirates that are going to be coming over are they're going to be mooks, and so when you're fighting mooks, there's going to be a whole lot of them. They tend to have pretty low they tend to have pretty low damage thresholds. So for the most part, if you hit them for like more than 2 or 3 damage, they're going to go down. One thing that is important to note on your combat abilities, if you look down under general abilities, there's a section called combat abilities. So people will have sorcery, sway, and/or warfare. If you have 8 or more ranks in that skill, you'll have if you have 8 or more ranks of warfare, you have a skill called cleave, and cleave will allow you to hit multiple bad guys at once. If you have 8 or more sway, you have play to the crowd. Again, you're able to affect more. You're able to your attack will be able to affect more than one opponent at once. And likewise, if you have 8 or more sorcery, you have blast, which again allows you to attack more than one on a hit roll. And basically, the way that works is if you exceed their threshold by 3, and you have either blast, play to the crowd, or cleave. If you exceed their threshold by 3, your attack affects another one. So if their threshold is 3 and you get a 6, you can attack 2 of them. Your attack affects 2 of them. If you get a 9, your attack affects your attack affects 3 of them.
How is the ship set up? Is there like a raised quarterdeck type thing?
Yes.
Okay, that's definitely where Acipitous would be because he doesn't want to get stabbed.
Fair enough. Quill, where are you going to be?
Can I climb down from somewhere they destroyed the masts or what they told us? So while it's broken, I'm getting down there. I guess
So
in my head,
you want to be above them? You
yeah,
mean?
because I think to end this fight fast and hard, I'd like to try to attack their leader as fast as possible. So maybe it's possible to grab a toe and just swing over there.
Swing across onto their ship. Absolutely, you can totally do that. And Lucrezia, where are you going to start?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip a coin. Can we say it's nighttime and there's a full moon? Or is that a?
I was going to say it's probably broad daylight.
Okay, that's fine.
When I say it's broad daylight.
When I flip the coin, I catches the light, so the sun, and it glints, and I catch it, and I kind of point to Prussia, like me and you, not knowing that Quill's already going after her. But I'm gonna go to one of the planks, and I'm actually gonna attack one of the planks that they're trying to cross over on.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think I got a spell idea to take care of some of the mooks.
Fantastic. Let me just do something real quick here. I just realized this is not the latest edition of the character keeper because there's no combat tracker sheet. So let me just throw one up real quick. Okay, so we got Lucrezia. We've got Quill. We've got Acipitous. We've got Pirates. We've got Captain. And we've got Mate. We've got going to insert checkbox. Oh, cancel. Insert. So the way initiative works is basically whoever it makes most sense to go first will go first. After you've taken your action, you then name who is going to go next. You can.
Should I go first to try to take care of some of the guys to clear a path for you?
Yeah, that makes total sense. So the way that works is, so you go, you take your action, you then declare who goes next. It can be yours. You can say it's, you can also hand it over to the bad guys. And then when they go, they get to go next. And when they go after their action, the player of that character declares who goes next until everyone's gone. And then it's a new round. We'll reset the checkboxes and then we'll start. One thing to keep in mind, it's great when, it's great if you all go first and then the monsters go, but then when the monsters go or when the bad guys go, if they go at the end of the round, I may very well say, okay, and next round, the bad guys go again. So it's kind of popcorn initiative. So, just to keep in mind, if you let all the bad guys go at the end of the round, there's a good chance they're all going to go first in the next round, which means they might be able to gang up on you. So, just a little bit on strategy there. So yeah, why don't we say Accipitus? Why don't we, since you're the wizard, why don't you go first? What would you like to do?
So approximately how many guys have jumped over onto our ship?
Let's see here. Yeah, so it basically says, waves of 1 to 4 pirates per hero, depending on how challenging you wish the fight to be, will swing or leap over the rail to board the coin. So let's say there's 3 of you. Let's say there's 10. Let's say the first wave is like 10 of these scurvy cutthroats have come over the railings, and there's 10 of them on deck right now, and they've got their cutlasses out.
All right.
And they're looking for targets.
So as soon as they land, I just come striding right up to the rail of the quarterdeck and just slam my staff down, which has an iron ferrule at the bottom, so it's nice and loud. And I get all eyes on me, and I just yell, "Who dares?" And then gesture, and above them, this sort of black sun appears, and it just starts dimming all of the light, like it's eating the light. And there's a cold wind of the grave, and disembodied spirits start swirling around. So I'm kind of going for intimidate and using corruption.
Okay.
I believe that also probably makes an impression, which is one of my drives.
Absolutely. That's absolutely okay. Absolutely, yeah. That's going to make an impression. So I'm going to check that off for this scene. And again, you can use all 3 of your. As the scene goes on, these reset at the scene at the end of the scene. So yeah, you're going to get a +1 for your drive on your roll. So yeah, this is going to be a. So you're going to be using sorcery on this to try to impress them. I was going to say you must use corruption to cause this effect, because this is clearly a magical effect. So you're going to need to spend at least a point of corruption to pull this off.
I'm going to spend 2 because I feel like it's a pretty powerful effect.
Okay. So we're going to drop your corruption from you're going to drop your pool from 3 to 1 because you're spending 2 points. Okay. So this is going to be a sorcery attack.
And then can I tie in intimidation from my investigative skills? Or is it just one of it?
You can't. Let me think here. On a given attack, you can only use if you're juicing an attack with investigative skills, you can only use 1 investigative skill per attack.
Okay.
So you're going to definitely have to use sorcery here. So, but if we want to say next round, you've still got this effect going. You could conceivably burn conceivably burn your intimidation next round if you wanted to do this. So this
Okay.
is clear. So this is clearly a sway attack. Or I'm sorry, this is clearly a source. This is a sorcery attack using sway. So let me get our. I just realized, did I link? I never linked a dice roller. Let me do that real quick. Visual die roller. Yeah, it's going to be SOTS GCOG. Okay, I am putting a link to the I'm putting a link to the shared dice roller on the safety and resources tab. And we're going to use a visual dice roller from rollwithme.xyz. Let me pop that into the chat as well. So the way this is going to work is you roll 1d6 and you can add. You're going to add. You just add +1 because you're using you are invoking your drive here. You can then spend as many sorcery points as you want to juice your attack roll. And remember, for every 3, because you have blast, for every 3 that you exceed the threshold, and I'll tell you right now, their morale threshold is 3. So for every 3 points you exceed their threshold by, you're going to affect another one. So let that inform your choice.
Okay, so do I choose before I roll?
Yes, you choose how many points you're going to spend before you roll.
Okay. Then what's the effect for using 2 points of corruption instead of 1?
Well, we've got a couple of choices here. You can use a point of corruption to give you a +3 on a general skill roll, or you can I'm going to say you can for every point you can just automatically affect another. For every point you spend, you can just automatically affect another guy if you want, or you can increase the damage you're going to do by 1 die. So if you wanted to spend all 3 dice, if you wanted to spend both on damage, normally a spell is going to do 1d6 plus 1 damage, and then when you for every point you spend, if you want to spend it on damage, so with those 2 extra, so you could do 3d6 plus 1 damage, or you could use the spell to and since you're attacking mooks, I think what I'm going to do is because this is a pretty cool effect, and you're spending a lot of corruption here. I think one thing I might do is I'm just going to, instead of using the normal rules for blast, I think I'm just going to say however much damage you do, I'm just going to apply that to as many bad guys as we can. So because I think this is a pretty cool effect, and you're definitely targeting all of them at once. So this is probably going to take out a number of them. So if you want to put them on. So if you want to put that corruption into the damage you're doing, that'll probably take out more.
Sure. Yeah.
And also, if you exceed a threshold by 5, you also get a critical hit, which will give you yet another die roll.
Okay, so 2d6 plus 1.
So your attack roll is going to be 1d6 plus 1 plus however many points of sorcery you want to spend.
Okay.
And their threshold is 3.
So does just clicking on the die here roll that for everybody, or see that?
Yeah, if you can, you can just click on you can just click on the die.
So I got a 4. I was going to use 2
Okay.
points of sorcery.
Okay, so that's a 6 plus 1 because you invoked your drive is a 7. So that does exceed their threshold by 5 or more. So you're going to get an extra. So that's a critical hit. So you get an extra bonus die. And I'm just like overruling the normal rules of how blast would work because I think it's cool to be able to affect all of them here. So why don't you go ahead and so you get 1d6 plus 1 for your for just casting a damaging spell. You get 2 more for burning corruption and putting that on damage, and you get another one because you exceeded their threshold by 5 because of a critical hit. So you've got 4 dice of damage here, plus 1. And since you spent 2 sorcery points, I'm going to reduce that to So I'm going to reduce that to 6 because you spent 2 points. If you roll a rolled a 1, the minimum damage of basically your lowest die can do a minimum of 2 because you spent 2 sorcery points. So we got. So that's 4. That's the 4 dice you rolled.
Yep.
Okay. This is a different interface than I was used to. Anyway, so we got. So we got 10, 11, 12. So yeah, that does 13 points of damage all totaled. And I think I said I was going to just like spread that around as far as it would go, just because I think that was cool. So you've taken out 4 pirates. There and one more is not looking great.
Cool.
So what does that look like? What does it look like that for these pirates, you've like scared the living daylights out of them such that they have lost the will to fight?
So I'm imagining it as they jump over, ready to fight, like they're looking to slaughter some merchantmen, maybe a guard or 2, and then this happens. And the front 4 of them who are seeing these spirits just coming up over the side of the boat and whirling around, they just share a look, drop their weapons, turn around and run back, jump over to the other ship, and are just below decks in the blink of an eye.
I love it. I love it. And I'm going to say, like, you can see on the other ship, they also have a quarterdeck, and on the top of their quarter, but yeah, they also have a quarterdeck, but it's a little far away. Standing on the quarterdeck is a woman. She's got like long curly dark hair. She's wearing a tricorn hat with a big plume on it, and she's holding a cutlass and is pointing it at her sailors that are now like running back scared, and she's shouting at them like, "No, get back there, you scurvy dogs!" Like, can't be scared of a few stupid magic tricks. All right, that was your action. Who would you like to go next?
I think it makes the most sense for Lucrezia to go.
Okay.
Right, so I had thought that they were still boarding, but if they're already on here, then I'm going to attack pirates.
Okay. Cool. What is that like?
Right.
What are you going to do, and what does that look like?
Right. So I'm going to I have my mace. I'm just gonna charge. I think I'm just gonna sing like I'm gonna sing like a hymn to Dinari. Is it Dinari?
Yes. Yes.
But I'm actually gonna sing it.
Prophet.
It's actually to the tune of like a bar song, because like it has the same amount of syllables, same meter. So
Fantastic.
It's
like singing Amazing Grace to the tune of House of the Rising Sun.
Exactly. And yeah, and I'm just gonna try to show like this is like fun for me to kind of give them a sense of what I think of them.
Got it. So So I guess my question is, are you going on? Are you trying to intimidate them into like running away, or are you just bashing heads?
I think I'm just gonna bash heads. Yeah.
Okay, that's going to be so. This is going to be that's going to be a warfare attack.
Okay.
You do have cleave, so pretty much the same thing. Do you think any of I'm going to say that doesn't. I was going to say, do you think any of your drives might are you following any of your drives in this action? No is a perfectly acceptable answer.
I think at some point it's going to be arrest the miscreant, but not at this point.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so so their threshold is 3. So in order to hit 1, you need to get a 3 or better on a d6. You can spend as many warfare points as you want. Oh right, I forgot. You know, I'm gonna pause here. I forgot one very important rule here. Refresh points. When you defeat enemies in combat, you get refresh points. Refresh, you can, this is a common pool of general ability points that anyone can, that any of you can use. Mooks, for every mook that you defeat, you get a refresh point. So I'm just going to, so because Accipitus took out 3 mooks, there's now 4 points in the refresh pool. When you spend general ability points, you can choose to spend your own general ability points, or you can pull them out of the refresh pool, and it's up to the individual who's moving. You know, the other players don't necessarily have any. I mean, they can make suggestions as to whether to burn the refresh or burn your own, but it's ultimately up to you. So there are 4 refresh points in the pool, and you can spend those in lieu of your own general ability points. So this is why it's sometimes good to like use spend your points in order to take a bunch out at once, because then that'll throw a bunch of extra points into the pool for others to use. So that was an important point I forgot to mention earlier, so I'm just going to throw that in now.
Okay, and then you said for every 5 behind for every 5 beyond the threshold, we take out an extra.
So there's two things. You have the cleave ability. So that means for every 3 points you exceed, you can affect another one with your damage. Additionally, if you exceed the threshold by 5, that's a critical hit, which will give you an extra die of damage that will affect everyone that you are affecting. And that's not divided up. That's just, that just goes to each when you do a cleave, like that.
All right, so I'm going to use 4 points of warfare.
Okay.
And I'm just going to smash.
Okay, so yeah, so go ahead and roll a d6 plus, this is the
6.
Okay, 6 plus 4 is a 10. Nice. So cool. You let's see, 3, 6, 9. You're affecting 3 bad guys, and you're getting an extra damage die. So go ahead and roll 2d6 plus 1, and that's going to affect 3 of the. That's probably just going to take them all out.
11 damage.
11 damage. Nice.
Is that right?
Yep.
The plus 1 was for the mace, correct?
Yeah, your mace does a plus 1.
Great.
Nice. Okay, so that's going to be 11. So that's going to take out. Yeah, that's going to take out 3 more pirates.
Awesome.
So at the moment, there's only a single pirate left on the. Hold on, 4 and 3 is 7. Yeah, so that means there's only, of the 10 pirates that came over the rails, there's only 3 that are still standing. And let me put 3 more points into the refresh pool. So, Lucrezia, who would you like to go next? Quill, the pirates, or also there are two named enemies. You could be Captain Cointongue or her first mate. I'm going to say over on the deck of the other ship, like on the main deck, there's a tall, really burly guy. What does he have for a weapon? And yeah, he's got this like giant warhammer that he's really going to bash. He's really going to try to bash some heads in. So those are so that's Kossos and Captain Cointongue are the two named enemies, or you can name one of the pirates, or you can say it's time for Quill to go.
Yeah, I think Kossos should go.
Kossos should go. Okay. So so Kossos is also swearing at the pirates that were scared away by Occipitus magic by Occipitus magic spell. And he just shakes his head and he hops over the rail. Magic spell. Forgot an important thing to Occipitus. Are you you burned 2 points of corruption? Are you going to internalize that and put it into your own body, or are you going to externalize that and put it into the ship?
I feel like I'm definitely going to externalize it based on my character. Whenever I can have that opportunity, that's going to be the route that I go.
Okay. So yeah, this infects this. So yeah, you have put this magical corruption into the ship itself, and you said this was spirits, and so I'm going to say the wood, like as you cast the spell, when you cast the spell, the area where you cast it, you said you were creating like like a black sun and like ghosts and spirits. Yeah, you actually invoked ghosts and spirits. This was not an illusion. And you see, like looking at the wood of the ship is like the color just leaches out of it, and it's like gray and like a little ghostly, and there's like mist. There's like, I mean, it's not enough to obscure your vision, but there's definitely like mist that's coming out, and there's like and there's like really disturbing like skeletal ghosts, ghost pirates and ghost seamen are like going through there, and that's going to be a permanent effect on this ship until someone can cure the corruption.
Exactly what I was going for.
Okay. So into this, so at this Kossos, so he jumps aboard, and he's actually taken a little aback by the by the corruption here, and but he comes through, and since you were up there bashing heads, I think Kossos is going after you, Lucrezia. Okay, this is the interface I was looking for. I am going to change, if it's okay with you, I'm going to change which, I chose the wrong interface for Roll With Me. I chose the experimental visual interface, which makes it hard, which makes it easier to just roll dice, but makes it harder to say who did what. So I'm gonna switch over to a different one, where you can where it actually keeps track of rolls, and you can like put modifiers in, and it'll say who did what. So I just popped a new roll dice with Roll With Me link into the chat window. So bad guys have an equivalent to have equivalent pool point that's they just use to power everything. It's called Malus, M-A-L-U-S. Oh, and also when you take out named enemies, they're worth more than one. They are worth more than one refresh point. So Kosos comes out, and he is going to, and he sees Lucrezia, who's clearly a priestess of that stupid merchant god, who tries to outlaw, like really taking what is yours. And he raises that maul and he's swinging it right for your head. I think he is going to put he's going to put 3 of his malice points into this roll. And so Lucrezia, you have a warfare threshold. You have so under health and morale, you have a threshold and also armor. So it looks like you have threshold 3. That's basically your armor class. So that's what he needs to roll in order to hit. You also have 2 armor, and that means that gets deducted from whatever damage that gets put at you. So he is going to. So he's putting 3 points into his attack. Oh, he rolled a 1 on the die, so he got a 4, which is enough to hit you. And so his attack is going to do. His attack is going to do some damage. And he did 6 points of damage on you. So that's going to be 6. That's going to be 6 health. You can reduce that by 2 via your armor. Anyone who has 8 or more ranks of athletics gets an ability called dodge, but it looks like you don't have that. So you don't really have a way to. So dodge gives you a chance to avoid an attack altogether. You don't have dodge, so you're just going to take it. So that's going to do 4 health. And as long as you're at positive health, you're fine. It's when you get into negative health that things might get a little dicey. You're not dead at 0. You can keep going at 0 and fewer. As long as you got positive health, you're good. So that was Kosos. So it's my choice as to who goes next. And I think I am going to have the pirates that are still aboard go next. So there's 3 pirates So there's 3 pirates. I'm going to say that I'm going to say that one of the pirates is going to stay by Kosos and is going to continue to attack Lucrezia. I'm going to say the other 2 are. I'm going to say the other 2 are like running to the ladder to climb up to the top of the quarterdeck to fight Accipitus, but they're not going to. But their action is just to get over there. They're not really close enough to move in and attack. So I am going to say that Accipitus, you got 2 pirates like right on top of you.
Okay.
But the one pirate who's attacking Lucrezia will attack. And he misses. So I'm going to say it's time for Quill to go.
Yeah, let's swing over there.
Absolutely. I don't think we need a roll here because I think that's cool. Where do you want to be when you swing over?
Next to their was it called a pirate queen or something like that?
Yeah,
So
Captain Coin Tongue. You want to swing over and be I think that's cool. I don't want to call for a roll. You just swing right over there. What's
yeah,
it?
well,
What? Go ahead and tell us what that looks like when you like land next to her, and
yeah,
and
while
then
still in the
we'll have an
air,
attack.
I draw my 2 daggers. If I can, I directly land. So it could be a strike from the air, if possible. So that's what I would do.
Oh, you want to attack her as you're swinging by, and you want to attack her as you're swinging by, then you let go of the rope and you're there, but you want to do the attack as you go by. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
So
and I assume I assume this is you're like actually directly attacking her. You're not trying to psych her out.
no, it's direct
Okay.
attack, yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be warfare.
Yeah. I got 5 warfare, so now I can spend, and for each spend point, I get 1 die. Is that correct?
When you're using general abilities like warfare, for each point you spend, that's going to give you a bonus on your 1d6 attack roll. So if you spend, say, 3 points of warfare, that's going to give you a +3 on your attack roll. And I'm just going to tell you that Precious threshold is 4, so you need to roll a 4 or better. You need to get a 4 or better to hit her.
Okay, I spend 2 points then.
Spend 2 points. Okay. So go ahead and roll a d6 + 2.
Six.
Nice. That is a hit. That is a solid hit. That's not enough for a critical, but that is a solid hit. So go ahead and roll some damage. You have the option, because you have hit, you have the option to spend a point from one of your investigative ability pools to like give you a bonus die. You can declare that after. You can always declare that after you hit. Just tell us how that affects your damage or how that affects your combat.
Yeah, well, I got
If you want.
taunt, so maybe I just provoke her by saying how easy it was to come next to her and ignore her defenses. They
Wonderful.
are pointless. So, okay, I reduce
Wonderful.
1 point as taunt.
Would this also be kind of helping your friends? Which is one of your drives?
Maybe I thought about outwitting a challenge, because helping, yeah, I guess helping friends is what I always do. So it's
not necessarily. That affects your roll, so you would have needed to declare that before you rolled. So hang on to it if you want to use it again. If you want to use that next round, that you can absolutely do that. So okay, you absolutely taunt her. We'll say that puts her off guard a little bit, and you can get an extra die of damage from that. So you're going to roll. So you're going to roll 2d6. Looks like your damage modifier is +1, so that's going to be 2d6 +1.
The damage modifier due to sharpness because of the twin daggers is already in there.
Yeah, that's the +1.
Okay,
so you're gonna do 2d6 +1 is your damage, and because you spent 2 points of warfare, if your lowest die is a 1, we'll just up that to a 2, because that's the minimum damage. That's minimum damage.
Okay, so it's 9 + 1, so it's 9 + 2 when you say the 1 goes up to a 2, so it's 11.
Let's see, 2d6. You got the die 1 was a 3, die 2 was a 6. So none of those was a 1, so that's going to be a 9. Plus your 1 is 10 points of damage.
Sure.
Dude, 10 points of damage. Where's my pencil? And she's got armor of 1, so that does. Ow. Yeah, you cut her pretty. You injured her pretty badly. She's still up, but so what does this attack look like?
I'm kind of stabbing and slashing away and while ducking and jumping around, it's a blur.
Fantastic. I love it. Okay, let's see. Where are we on the combat tracker? Quill went. So I think let's do this. I'm gonna have Captain Cointongue go. We're a little past the hour, so we're a little past where we would normally call a break. I don't usually like to call a break in the middle of combat, but I kind of do need to step away. So I'm gonna do Captain Cointongue's action. Top of the new round. I'm gonna call a 5-minute break. Then we're gonna come back and we'll continue from the next round. So she is, she lets loose a, let's take a look at her special abilities here. She lets loose a string of expletives and, spins around and enters this like perfect like fencing pose. Like she's formally trained in fencing with her rapier up, and she's just puts her backhand up, gets into a fencing pose, and she just kind of like goes in to try to like stab you straight through the heart with her rapier. Let's see here. She's got an offense of, she's got warfare 1, fire 2. I think she's going to spend 4 points here. She's going to spend 4 points of her malice ability to juice her score by 4. She got a 10 on your. She got a 10 on. She got a 10 to hit you. Looking at your character sheet, it looks like looking under defenses. It looks like your health threshold is 4. So she has beaten your health. She's beaten your threshold by 6 points. So she is going to get a critical hit on you. You do have dodge, so you can try to dodge or parry warfare attacks here. This might be a good time to do that. And so the way this works, actually, let me double check on that rule. Dodge. Actually blanking how dodge works because it's been a few months since I've played this game. Give me a quick moment so I don't botch the rules. And I close that. Search the Serpentine. Find dodge. Next. You can try to dodge or parry attacks against your health after you've successfully been attacked, but before your full rolls damage. I forgot to invoke that. Spend at least 1 point of athletics and roll an athletics test. You must exceed the attacker's successful result. So, yeah, I haven't rolled. So I haven't actually. So let's see. So that was the attack. Yeah, so 10 was the attack, and it's going to be a critical, but I haven't rolled damage yet. So if you would like to dodge, you will need to you'll need to get a 10 on an athletics check, and that works pretty much the same way as that pretty much works the same way as an attack. Basically, you're going to roll a d6. You can spend athletics points, and you're going to want to get a 10 or better because that was a pretty good hit on hers.
I spend all of them.
Spend all of them. Okay. Go ahead and roll +8.
Mhm. A 12.
You did it. Okay. You yeah, this is a deadly strike that she was aiming like straight for you. How do you dodge or parry this attack?
Is it too trashy when I say I jump up and land on her rapier or sword and just bow?
Well, I'm not sure she's strong. I'm not sure if she's strong enough to hold you up if you land on
It's
her.
just for a moment, sure.
You jump up, you jump up and you yeah, I love it. You like you yeah, you jump up, you do a flip, you land on the blade, which you land on the blade, which which your weight like pushes down to the ground, but you step off of it.
And doing a step backwards and just sorry.
I love it. I love it. And the captain gives you like the evilest of glares and presses her attack. And new round. I get to choose who goes first, but we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Let's come back in 5, and we'll pick up and conclude this combat. And we're back. One of our players decided that this game wasn't for him and open doored out, which is absolutely fine. So I think we're going to continue play with Lucrezia and Occipitus as player characters. I think we'll keep Quill around as a non-player character, just mainly for narrative purposes. There are mechanical ways you can incorporate an NPC in Gumshoe. I don't remember how it works. I don't want to take the time to look it up. So we'll just keep Quill around for narrative reasons. That combat took a bit longer than I expected. So I think I'm going to just so that we can get to other parts of this game as a demo. I think it's going to be pretty clear that I mean, the PCs are supposed to win pretty easily. I think I've demonstrated enough how combat works that I think we can move on. So with no objections, I'm just going to kind of narrate the end of this scene, and then we'll move on to the next part of the adventure. That okay with folks? Awesome. So, so the battle rage. So the battle at sea rages on, but it actually is over quicker than people were expecting. Quill and Captain Cointongue. Captain Cointongue quickly comes to the realization that Quill is a much more capable combatant than she had realized. Switches to a much more defensive, and she switches to a more defensive means and a more defensive means of fighting. She calls and several of she calls for aid from her crew, and several come up, but Quill is able to dispatch them. Occipitus throws more magic, this time on the pirate's vessel, which demoralizes them further. And in the fight with first mate Kosos, Lucrezia winds up, smacks him hard across the face. He loses his balance, is frightened by the spirits that are still like blowing around him, and he swats at one of the spirits, loses his balance, and falls overboard. and the fight is over, and with the capture of and I'm going to say Quill. Quill doesn't kill Captain Cointongue because she may have some information. So Captain Cointongue is tied up and brought back aboard your ship. The rest of the pirate, you force the rest of the pirates back into the hold of their ship, and you have a prisoner. You have the pirates under control. Their first mate is now shark food. So what do you do?
Well, I mean, I would formally, for the crimes of piracy, give her the official, you're under arrest speech.
Probably been evading her taxes too.
Right, terrible. Not tithing to Dinari. So
yeah, I think I would go over and check out her ship and levy fines against whatever loot she has. Obviously for moral and just reasons, not for self-aggrandizement at all.
Of course. So, let's take a quick look here. So you do a quick. So you've captured the captain and brought her aboard your ship. On the other ship, Occipitus and who wants to go aboard their ship? Occipitus definitely. Quill will go with you. Lucrezia, are you going as well? Or you're just staying aboard to guard the captain? Up to you.
If the captain, and I would imagine the captain and his men are able to.
They are.
Watch over pre-show. So
they're
I will
able
go
to,
with the.
Yeah, they're able to put her in irons and put her in the brig. And so, okay, so the three of you go over to explore the ship. Let's take a quick look here. So, it looks like there's not a ton of loot aboard the ship, and when you talk to the pirates, so I assume you're going to like talk to the crew of the Squandered Hope. I'm just going to ask, like, so what tack are you taking when you talk to the pirates?
I would lean into the haunted ship, intimidate, sorcerer, spirit angle, and just scare the willies out of them and get them to give up any secrets that they have.
Fantastic. Using intimidation on the pirates. Yeah. Well, they do say that they they put in they most recently had put in and sold off most of their loot at actually at the city you had gone to, or the city you had intended to go to. I forget the name of it. It's a lesser naval power that's a rival, although a much lesser rival to Eversink. And they had sold off most of their loot, and so there's actually not a lot of loot aboard this ship because your ship was one of the first that they had attacked since they sold off their most recent booty. So unfortunately for you, there isn't a lot of loot to recover aboard the ship. One thing though that's really disturbing: when you go below decks, you notice that unlike in a lot of pirate ships, there's like flowers and dried herbs and like all over the place. There's incense burning to mask this really bad smell. I mean, you've been on ships before. Ships never smell good. This one smells really bad, and the pirates have been trying to mask the scent because this is the smell of death. When you go below into the hold, stacked like cordwood are like 24 bodies in various stages of decay, which is weird and disturbing to say the least.
Any signs of plague?
I'm sorry, any signs of what? I didn't get that.
Any signs of plague or disease?
Oh, plague. Not that you can tell. These look like, I mean, looking at the corpses, I'm just, yeah, what do you got here?
So I have Leechcraft. Would
You've
I
got
be able to
Leechcraft.
tell?
Yep, you can totally tell with Leechcraft. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, with Leechcraft, absolutely. Yeah, these were, looking at them, these were sailors from another merchant vessel. And that they look like they were just like killed in battle. Looks like they were killed with, they were stabbed or beaten or throttled, and a couple of them were drowned and presumably pulled back aboard.
So would I be able to take one of the sailors and look into his dead eyes and use prophecy to see what he was like, what they're intended to do in the future with this through his eyes?
I love that. This is going to require a spend, so go ahead and spend a point of prophecy on this. Yeah, you use your magic. What's it? What's this ritual look like?
So from the outside, it initially doesn't look like much. Like there's no real somatic components to this. I'm just basically enabling myself to see through this guy's eyes by kind of dominating his spirit, because I imagine they're still hanging around since they died from violence, and just forcing it back into his body and kind of jumping in there with it so that I can see through his eyes in the future what they were intended to do with these bodies.
So you get a bit. So you get a bit of this. You get a bit of his memory, and you hear. You see the fight. It was aboard another ship, not unlike the one that you were aboard. Although they did not have a band of that ship did not have a band of stalwart adventurers. They had a couple of like second-rate Marines that were quickly overcome. And the pirates, like you see in this eyes, the pirates just went on a killing spree. They took no prisoners. And instead, you see in the again, you see through the dead man's eyes, because it was still, the sailor was dead, but was still like apparently seeing what's going on. The pirates were, they just went on a bloodthirsty killing spree, and they killed every living soul on that ship. But then they gathered up all the corpses and they brought it back aboard their own ship and just put them in the hold. And you catch snippets of conversation that this dead man overheard, which was, several of the pirates were expressing, distaste, like, liked it better when the captain just put a penny under their tongue and threw them overboard. And another says, like, yeah, this is nasty business, but yeah, she says it's gonna pay. She says it's gonna pay far, far better once we cash these corpses in. So we're going to get quite the payday when we split back into Eversink. And another one says, the more body, she kept telling us the more bodies we bring, the more we can sell.
I'm going to relay that because that is disturbing. I mean, I traffic in the spirits of the dead, but come on, you got to have some respect.
That was a really cool. That was a very creative spend of prophecy there. I thought that was awesome. So you got that from the spirit of the dead, which was pretty cool. Just want to tell you a little bit about so Lucrezia. You don't actually have magic powers. You do have the power Spirit Sight. Spirit Sight allows you to like look into you're able to like look across the veil into the spirit realm, and you can basically you can sense ghosts. You can talk to ghosts. You can also use that to sense magical corruption. Oh, and one other thing I forgot to mention about corruption. When sorcerers externalize corruption, it is infused with their personal signature. No two sorcerers are alike. So, for example, if there's a sorcerer that's been going around the city like corrupting stuff, the church, who has many members with Spirit Sight, can tell that it would be the same sorcerer that caused the corruption in different spots. And if they see that sorcerer cast a spell that would cause more corruption, or if they're able to examine a sorcerer who is corrupted themselves, they'll see the same signature and they'd be able to. So that is one thing about externalizing corruption, is it can be traced back to you, and it can take a while for that to dissipate naturally.
Okay.
That's actually one thing the Church of Dinari does, is they have rituals that can clean up corruption, although it can take a while.
So since we're on, I'm sorry.
Go on.
Since
Nope,
since
go
we're on
on.
the open, since we're on the open waters, was it? Would it be? It wasn't breaking any laws that Acipitous cast this spell and externalized, or is that? Is it only in Dinari that we enforce this?
I would definitely make that argument. Like, technically
you weren't in the city, but the ship is going into Eversink Harbor, and this ship has now been corrupted with magic. And I got to tell you, Acipitous, the captain and the sailors are not happy about this, because corruption is like really frightening. And you put 2 points of corruption in this, which a point of corruption will usually dissipate itself in a week or maybe two. 2 points of corruption in the same spot, that's going to take about a year to dissipate on its own.
I think I would know that, so I would talk to the captain and be like, to make up for that, I got you a new ship.
You're presenting him with the squandered hope.
Yes, I'm doing that to float the consequences of my bad behaviors.
Well,
which I acknowledge that, like, out of character, I have no authority to do, like salvage rights, I guess. But
salvage rights. The captain was probably going to do that anyway, and was going to put a skeleton crew over on the other ship to
I can make
sail
that happen
back.
literally.
Great, you animate the corpses in the hold, and they're the new sail. Oh boy, that's going to go over really well.
I was thinking about just doubling down on this and doing an intimidation spend on Coin Tongue to try to get her to give up what the plan was.
That will totally work.
So the way I'm envisioning that is I go over and I just stare at her silently, and then around me, the spirits of all these dead people just start floating up out of the planks of the ship and standing around her, just accusatorily staring at her. And then
I love it.
in.
Yes, that's not creepy in the slightest. Yeah, you don't need to actually burn any points for that. That would be a sorcery spend to like cause that to happen, but we're out of combat, and your general points refresh at the end of a scene anyway. So yeah, I love that. So you're using your magic to and at this the captain she knows she's in irons. She knows that you're going to hand her over to the authorities to collect her bounty, because that's what she'd do. And she knows that probably in 3 days' time, she's going to be hanging from her neck from a gallows. So I guess she doesn't really have much to lose here, and says, like, look, I'll tell you everything. Tell you everything. On the condition that look, just let me go. I'll I mean, heck, I've like put me on a just put me on a boat. We're in the middle of nowhere. Put me on a boat. After I tell you what I tell you, and just let me go. But I'll tell you everything. I'll even tell you where. I'll even tell you where I left a cache of treasure in Eversink that's well worth more than the bounty on my head. But if you hand me over, you'll never find that.
I guess I'd try to get a read on what Lucrezia thinks about that, because I'm morally flexible.
I'm gonna try to do liar's tale, just to see if she's telling the truth in the first place.
She is legitimately scared for her life, and she is actually attempting to make this bargain. Like, I'll tell you, promise me, and she looks at you, promise me, Vigilant of Dinari. If I tell you what I know, and I will tell you everything that I know.
Can I try a
you let
different
me
angle?
go. Sure.
Can I lean in and say, in a couple of days, they're going to hang you. Do you want that to be the end of your torments or the beginning? And then I gesture around at all these spirits around me, and my aspect just takes on just this dark and horrifying visage, and like double down on the intimidate.
Look, tell you what I know, tell you where my treasure is. I just ask that you not hand me over, because I'm gonna die. If you let me go, like lower me on one of the boats, you don't have to give me any provisions, don't have to give me anything, just let me go. I'll tell you on your promise, Vigilant of Dinari. And she gives Lecipitus a look that is both suspicious and like terrified. If you give me your word, Lucrezia, or she doesn't know your name, I guess. If you give me your word, Vigilant, I'll tell you everything I know, what these corpses were, why I was doing this, and but just promise me you will not hand me over, and that you'll just let me go, even here out to sea.
So I will also give a look to Accipitus, which is suspicious and terrified at the things he's saying. And to Pressure, I will say one other stipulation: you will never return to your life of piracy if I let you free.
She sighs deeply and says, I can assure you that you will never see me in Eversink's shipping lanes, nor will any ship bearing the standard of Eversink ever be preyed upon by a ship that I may or may not be upon. And again, you got liar's tale. She's actually making, you're pretty sure she's sincere that, between the threat of Accipitus, she's telling you, like, look, I know I'm a pirate. I'm a pirate. I know I'm a pirate. I know piracy. I'm a pretty damn good pirate. In exchange for my life, I will never prey on I will no longer hunt in Eversink's waters, and I will never attack an Eversink ship. Or I'll never attack a ship from Eversink.
So I'm going to say this kind of as a bluff. I don't know if Accipitus will take it that way, but I'll just ask Accipitus, if we kill her, can you make her spirit talk?
Just Death's Head grin. Of course. which I think I can actually do.
So to get her to, I'm going to say, so I've been doing this like without spend. If you want to actually spend if you want to spend an appropriate point, I think she'll, you know, she will swear to give up her life of piracy.
Sure. What would I need to spend?
That'd probably be, I mean, that'd probably be intimidation.
All right. I'll spend it. And yeah, and unless Sipitis has any objection, I will honor the bargain.
Okay,
That
so
murderous.
What was
so
that?
yeah, so in exchange for your promises that you'll just like let her go on a, you know, just let her go on a ship's dory. So here's the story. So she was, you know, she was at a bar in Smuggler's End in Eversink, you know, a few months ago, and she was having drinks with this you know, this skinnish woman named who goes by Dinastra, and she wanted corpses fast, as many as she could get her hands on, but she didn't want to do the dirty work herself. She knew what line of work I'm in, and that, well, you know, there's plenty of blood on my hands anyway. And she was given a really good coin for bodies. So, and at this Captain Cointime just shakes her head and says, "I should never have taken that. I should have continued to make my offerings. I should have continued to make my offerings to the great squid of the deep. It was only after I stopped. It was only after I stopped that. It was only after I stopped making my offerings that my fortunes, like the wind, the winds blew against me, and I see myself, and I find myself here in this brig."
All right. I mean, I guess we cut her loose. I'm not gonna
Well,
murder her in cold blood.
Did you have
Did she
another
say
question?
why she wanted the bodies?
Yeah.
Yeah, she said this Dinastra person in yeah, in a Sinkish woman, this woman named Dinastra in Eversink was offering her like top coin for bodies, as many as she could, as quickly as she could.
No, I meant, did Dinestra say why she wanted the bodies?
Oh, did Dinastra say? Oh no, Dinastra never said. Dinastra never said why. She just said what, and she offered plenty of coin.
What was her contact? Like, how was she supposed to get the bodies to Dinestra?
Well, Dinestra has people posing as, what do they call them? Well, Dinestra has some of her people posing as official corpse takers. And I'll just, you know this, people die at sea. In Eversink, and this is also, this is a little bit of the lore of the world that you just know. When people die, they need to be remembered by the living. And if the dead are forgotten by the living, their spirits return as ghosts. And the way people remember the dead in Eversink is to make a statue of them. Nobody necessarily even has to look at the statue, but funerary statues are a thing. And if a funerary statue is made of a person, their spirit goes on to whatever spirit realm spirits go to. If there is not a funerary statue and there's no one around living to remember them, the ghost is going to stay around on the earth. So consequently, Eversink is just full of funerary statues all over the place. In fact, there's even an island one of the many islands of Eversink, which is just full of funerary statues that people didn't particularly have any great desire to hang on to. So you bring them to this, you put them on this island, and yeah, it keeps the ghosts happy, and you don't have to have this stupid funerary statue of your, of your great granduncle, collecting dust in your house. So, so people are generally brought back so that a dedicated funerary statue can be made of them. And the corpse takers are the ones, and it's not uncommon for people to die at sea. And if they are from Eversink, they'll generally bring the corpse back home. They'll be collected by the corpse takers, which is a which is a business, which is a side business run by the Church of Dinari, where they're taken away. They try to identify what family this person was from, and to like get them to have a funerary statue made of that person, so that there are fewer ghosts wandering around town. Dinastra has some people that are posing as official corpse takers, collecting corpses, and they're getting there much faster than the official ones were. And that's her contact. They make contact with the corpse takers. There's a transaction, and then they go to collect the money.
And so, we get the details of how they get contacted and all that. If Sipitus doesn't have any other questions, there's something I'd like to do with the captain. We'll blindfold her, and we'll actually go to the island of Dinari. And I just want to see if the myth is true about people setting foot on it. So we'll let the captain off there. Again, she'll be blindfolded, and we'll see what happens.
Interesting. I mean, it is taboo to. It's taboo to go there, and the reason that it's said to be taboo is those who go there will never leave for whatever reason. But yeah, humans aren't supposed to go there, so I don't think you'd. And again, that's a little bit of the lore of the world. So I don't think you'd want to do that.
Okay.
And you did, yeah, and you did agree to let her go. Now I don't know. Now you don't have to be people of your word, but she believed you.
Right. Technically, we're letting her go. So fine. If it's a taboo, then maybe we'll let her out near the island, and if she decides to go there on her own.
Got it. Well, she was specifically asked to be like let out in a boat out at sea. But
right. All right. I will honor my word.
But it's really up to you.
Well,
if you want to.
It crosses my mind, but I'll be true to my word and
Got it.
the spirit of my word.
Got it. Well, one of Lucrezia's adjectives is honest.
True. Right.
Okay, so you've got you've got the clue, which is which she was collecting corpses for this woman named Dinastra, who is at the Eversink, who has a crew of fake corpse takers collecting corpses on the Eversink docks. So yeah, I guess we'll hard frame the next scene of your two ships coming into the harbor, and tying up. And looking at the time, it is it's just about the top of the hour. Why don't we take a 5-minute break? Then we'll come up and given where we are in time, we're not going to get to the conclusion of this adventure, but I think we can get to at least hopefully a satisfying cliffhanger. Let's take
Sounds good.
5. Let's come back at 5 minutes after the hour. Okay, we are in the final hour of this game. I think we're going to do a little. So this phase of the game is going to be more of the investigation side of things. The way I imagine this is going to go is we're going to basically follow the clues to the site of what would in the published adventure like be the big showdown. We're probably not going to have time to actually run the showdown, but that's fine. Again, this is kind of more of a demo game that I hope we're just going to have fun with. So. So the ship, actually both ships put in at Eversink. Not in the, because of the corruption on the ship, the captain makes the wise decision not to go into the main port, but to go into one of the secondary ports, which isn't where he normally goes, but it's probably going to draw less. Probably going to draw less ire from the church because he's bringing a corrupted ship into Eversink. And you catch from what you gather, he's going to try to sell the ship. He's going to try to sell the ship cheap, and then he's going to try to sell both ships cheap, and then use the money to buy a new ship. But anyway, so you pull into one of the lesser docks, and this is at the area that I mentioned earlier. It's Smuggler's End. This is where some of the less savory transactions go on. Things aren't quite as neither the official tax people nor the church pay quite as many tabs on ships that are here. It's definitely a seedier dock than the main docks in the richer sections of town. But there's plenty of legitimate trade goes on here. Just the docking fees are a bit lower. It is not long when your ships when the ships come in and tie up. The harbor master comes over and starts negotiating the docking fees and to get the right stevedores over to unload the holds. And while the officials are talking with the captain, yeah, sure enough, and faster than you would normally think, there's three men who are dressed in the robes of the church's corpse takers come up with a large handcart. And call up to say we're here to collect your dead. Did you inform the captain of what was going on here, or did you not?
I'd say we'd probably inform the captain on the condition that he keep it secret from his crew and everything. We don't want everybody to know about it. But
so what's your plan? The corpse takers are here.
give them the bodies and then follow them.
That's one thing too. Maybe have can you have either I use my spirit side or you use your magic so that we don't follow them physically, where I don't think either of us are probably too good at tailing, or maybe we are, maybe you are, but
Quill's with you, and Quill's good at tailing. And
Quill's
yes. Yeah, Quill is with you. Quill is good at tailing people, and that's actually part of the rules. Is when you is a skilled person can lead their less skilled friends on this, and basically unless it's really interesting to the story, you're probably not going to get picked up. If I'd call, if it'd be interesting, I might call for a skill roll, but I think it's interesting to just kind of follow the clues.
Okay, I think that's a good plan then. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the corpse takers, they sure act like they're official corpse takers, although Lucrezia, looking at them, you can tell. You can just you have your with your felonious intent skill, you can just tell that the corpse takers like robes, uniforms that they're wearing, they're just ever so slightly off. These are not official robes. These are copies, and they're not. They're good. You know, they probably fool most people, but they don't fool you. These are clearly not official corpse takers. And also, when some of the language they're using just a little off. They're using, like, you know, common terms where official corpse takers would be using very official terms. So yeah, but they seem to be acting like normal corpse takers. So you load a yeah, and they load the bodies, and they load several bodies onto this cart, and they take off through the streets. Yeah, let's see here. And yeah, then the other thing is they're conducting business much more quickly than you would normally. They're clearly cutting corners, and your guess is they want to get out of here because you know what's really going on here. They want to get out of here before the official corpse takers show up. Bodies are loaded and they are leaving. What is your plan? Gonna, like, follow them at a distance, or?
Yeah, I think definitely
Try to
following
fight
them
them?
at a distance would be probably the easiest and most effective way to do this.
Okay, let's see how this goes. Okay, so looking at the rules, yeah, if you're just going to try to surreptitiously follow them, yeah, there would be a roll here. It looks, but you know, I'm just going to say, yeah, you know, I'm just gonna say you follow them. So you follow them into a notorious neighborhood of Eversink called the Tangle. And the Tangle is it's not the worst, but it's one of the worst and most dangerous neighborhoods of Eversink. Although strangely, it's also the neighborhood that has the best street food.
That absolutely checks out.
You know, I mean, the fried eels here are the best. You regularly see upper class people from better sections of the town slumming it down here just to get the best street food. So you are following the so I think I'm going to do this as a montage, similar to how we similar to how the trip back to Eversink went. I'm going to so I'm going to set up I'm going to like set up a scene. I'm going to ask one of you to describe a problem or a challenge in this scene. I'm going to ask the other you to just tell us how you overcome it. There's no roles. It's just going to be narration. So at some point, so you're following this cart, and these streets are maze-like. They're narrow, they're twisty, they're turny. Yeah, there are official buildings that were built here that are made of brick and stone, but in front of them on the streets, there are like lots of shacks and shanties that have been built. Some of them are 2 or 3 tall. Eversink is kind of like Venice in that it does have streets, but most cargo is like most transport is done by is done by canal boat, because this city is just riddled with canals. That's the main way to get through. So as you're following the money, so I'm going to say this, as you're following the as you're following these corpse takers, you suddenly realize that you are being followed by a group of like 6 or 7 street urchins. That's a scenario. Bjorn, I'm going to ask you, like, what challenge or obstacle do these street urchins pose to you?
Well, they're obviously being loud, and they are pelting each other and us and other random passersby with various odds and ends of trash that they find. So the danger that they represent is attracting attention to us from the corpse takers, so they might notice us tailing them.
Okay, I got it. So you got some loud and boisterous street urchins tailing you, which you think might cause the corpse takers to realize that you're tailing them. I love it. Rod, why don't you tell us how the three of you are able to overcome this challenge?
Yeah, I take the gold coin that I have, show it to the urchins from a distance, and just kind of toss it to the side, and I'll have them fight over it, and do their mischief.
I love it.
Add away from us.
I love it. That's fantastic.
You throw it into a canal, and they're just like dolphins, all of them.
Yeah.
Ew. Okay. So the next challenge is, at one point the corpse takers take their corpse cart down an alley that it basically dead ends at a canal. And there's a canal boat there, and there are a couple of other people on this canal boat that come out, and between the two on the boat and the 2 corpse takers on the cart, they just start loading the bodies onto this canal boat. So you're pretty sure that transport is now moving from the streets to the canals. What do you do?
Are there ferry taxis or gondolas or whatever they are? That we
I was
can
going to say,
take maybe.
yeah, there are water taxis you can absolutely take. They aren't quite as common around here as they are in more richer parts of town, just because people around here don't have a whole lot of money. And kind of like in Venice, the canals often don't have, they regularly don't have walkways by them. They're just going straight past, like, straight walls of buildings that are built right down into the canals.
So I have preparedness at rank 8 with flashback. So
Nice.
we jump back to where I talked to Giuseppe, the intrepid gondola pilot, I guess. Knowing that there are so many canals, I wanted a set of eyes on this from the canals. So I've had him tagging along behind us in case something like this happened.
I love it. That's fantastic. I love it. That's fantastic. Let me just make sure I'm playing flashbacks right by the rules. Let me look that up real quick. Talent flashback. If your preparedness rating is 8 or more, you can narrate a flashback of where your group prepared a secret plan in the past, even if no one had been aware of it until now. Examples include: declare that a foe's breakfast that morning was poisoned. A portal normally kept locked and barred was left ajar for you. a dagger smuggled in earlier is hidden beneath your chair, etc., etc. Or you've previously bribed one of the mercenaries. Okay, if you must have had up. Okay, yep. So absolutely. Difference between a flashback and a standard spend is twofold. First, you can involve other characters, and two, you can present your plan as a fait accompli. You don't need to go back and role play. So yeah, you can absolutely do this. I'm just going to say that I'm going to require an investigative spend in order to say this. It's going to be a 1-point spend, and just tell me which which of your points is coming into play here, or which skill is coming into play that you've got Giuseppe the you're able to get Giuseppe the water taxi man, like where you need him.
I'm going to say I probably spent Intimidate to get him to come down here and paddle around and not be in the rich part of town getting customers, because I just remind him what happened to his cousin when he crossed me.
Nice. I love it. The other way to do it would be a roll with I'd set a difficulty score, and you would spend you'd spend preparedness points for it, but an investigative spend makes it a sure thing. So it's kind of up to you. I just think it's probably better this way because we're not really in combat, so general spend doesn't really seem super appropriate here. So cool. Yeah. So yeah, you get on this. So yeah, you wait around. You basically wait around a corner because these canals these canals run different ways. You meet up with Giuseppe around a corner. And Quill's at the front of at the prow of the boat, just kind of like looking around the corner. And when their boat, when their gondolier starts pulling them down the canal, Quill gives you the signal, and Giuseppe starts pulling. And yeah, so you're a few boats away. I think we're gonna need to do some kind of a skill roll here to avoid detection. Otherwise, this is gonna turn into a boat race.
I could spend or roll some preparedness, and I have my Imperious sack that's full of objects, which could include, in theory, some disguises.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to say let's call this a difficulty 4 preparedness check.
So I think I'll just spend 3.
Make it a sure thing.
Mm-hmm. Should I still roll?
Yeah,
for...
go ahead and roll. If you get a critical success, that'll if you got a critical, that might bring something new into the fiction.
And I don't think that really fits any of my drives or anything. So.
So D6, and you said you spent 3.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a 5. So that doesn't exceed by 5. So it just yeah. So it just works. You've what have you disguised yourself in your boat as?
So I'm imagining this as like 3 just giant fancy hats. So each of us gets one. One has like the fancy lady's hat. One has the fancy gentleman's hat. And then somebody else has a giant like footman's hat. And we just angle them all properly.
So you're 3 noblemen slumming it in the Tangle.
Yeah, I was thinking like a nobleman and a lady on a romantic gondola ride through the horrifying crime-ridden neighborhood with their footmen to keep them safe.
Oh my, we shall witness crime.
Yes, living exciting lives. And they're just so gaudy and huge that as long as you angle it slightly, they cover pretty much everything.
Okay. So, so they go deep in the Tangle, and this they go deep into the Tangle, and the buildings around here are not in great repair. But then you get to the Stonecutters neighborhood, and this is a section of town where the houses are actually in really good shape. The Stonecutters Guild has been here for decades, if not centuries, and they're still here, even as their neighborhood around them kind of like fell to pot. They're still there. They're still proud. They still, and they still, practice their trade here. And one of the things that many of the stonecutters do is they, like many of the buildings here, have elaborate stone facades, and some of the buildings have it's a section of the facade in one style, and it's another section of the facade in a very different style, so that they can show off the kinds of work that they can do. And again, you've been in Eversink long enough. You've probably been here before, and if you haven't, you've certainly heard of it. Quill has by far and away been here. Osipitus, I'm going to say you've been here too, because there's a. I was going to say there's a shop that sells questionable. That sells magical reagents of questionable provenance that's not near here that you've certainly patronized a couple of times. And Lucrezia, you've probably followed miscreants into this neighborhood because, a lot of people down here don't pay their taxes. And this is interesting because as you come along, you one of the so this boat, so the boat you're following turns down a small, narrow kind of like side canal, and this one's really narrow. To the point where this might not have been an official canal at one point. This might have been where the buildings had been flush against one another, but then higher stories were higher stories weren't flush, but as the buildings sank, a new waterway opened up here. And so this boat goes up this little side canal, and you see that up, and you're pretty sure that just turning down this would be way too obvious. So you go by slowly and watch them. And this boat, so this little side waterway, it actually goes into a hole that's there's a side of, there's one section of wall seems to have fallen away. And they go into this, it seems to have fallen away, but then other people have, it looks like they've shored it back up, but so it's almost like a water garage, or like a boathouse. So this boat goes into this opening in the side of a building. And does anyone have trustworthy? Does anyone have scurrilous rumors? Does anyone have?
Yeah, I have trustworthy.
And does anyone have city secrets? And yes, Quill has city secrets. Okay, so just having these abilities, having some of these abilities, Quill identifies the house, and says, "Oh, that's Noble House. Weird place that," she says. Yeah, it's in the Stonecutters thing, and if we go up to street side, we will note that the exterior facade has been made to look identical to the Valori family mansion, which is in the rich section of town. And when Quill says that, Lucrezia, you know that Anthony Valori, so Anthony Valori had a father named Bellari, who was a stonecutter, and a mother who left the nobility to follow her heart. Antonio's father carved the outside of Noble House to look like the Valori mansion where his wife had grown up. Isn't it beautiful? It's nicknamed Noble House because the carving mimics the towers of nobility in this really seedy section of town. Quill continues like, oh, well, and Antony's a commoner, of course, but his mom, Sally, was disinherited and it caused a huge scandal. And yeah, she was she was disowned for marrying a commoner. Don't know where they got the money to build this place, though.
Does it have, does this, since it's so unusual, does it have a reputation that we can maybe recall?
Well, let's see. So basically, so to learn more about Noble House, I think that's what you know. If you want to find out more information, you're going to need to, like, maybe get out of this boat, get onto the, get off of the boat and start talking to the people that are near there. Or if you want to try to like find out more about the family, there are other ways to do that. What tactic do you want to take? I mean, and you're also still in this boat.
So I have 2 allegiance with sorceress cabals. Would I be able to like go to them for any information about anything?
Absolutely.
These guys do that are magical that they might know about?
Oh, absolutely. So sorceress cabals, they work more or less like, again, you have a rank with allegiances. So these are the various factions that are operating in and around town. And they work more or less like investigative abilities. So you've got a number of ranks with them, and that also gives you a pool points to spend them. And you can have positive or negative ranks with them. If you have negative, that means they're an enemy. If they're positive, that means they're an ally. You can still spend pool points on enemies. That just means that you're like, oh, well, I've tangled with them before, and therefore I know this. Or you might be able to call upon other enemies of them as help. Like, oh, well, we need to get if you've got like enemies with, if you're enemies with a particular street gang, you might be able to spend a pool point to find members of a rival street gang who would like help you fight them or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. So yes, I think I would probably split up and like pound the pavement. Maybe since we know where they're at now, we're just trying to figure out what's going on. So I would probably try to hit up my contacts among the various magical groups and figure out if there's anything to be gleaned there about what's going on with these bodies.
Okay. And so let's why don't we do a, let's see, I'm looking at time here. So yeah, why don't we do so you're going to do that. Yeah. So Quill says she has some people she also wants to follow up with to try to get some more information. Lucrezia, what would you like to do? We'll just do a couple of quick scenes.
It looks like I have servility, which is you fit in with the common folk. So I'll look for some common folk and just see what they think of the noble house.
There are plenty of commoners around here. Let's see. So let's do what Lucrezia digs up first. So talking with the people in the area. Oh, and there's a oh, and yeah, there's a vendor out here that sells like some of the best sweetmeats in town. I'm sorry, best sweetbreads in town. Nobody makes pancreas the way this guy can. So you're chatting with him, you're chatting with some of his other customers, you're just, trying to blend in, you're a woman of the people. And yeah, what you get is, you bring up Anthony, Anthony Villari, and everybody likes him. He used to be a stonecutter and a sculptor like his father, but he doesn't seem to be doing that much of that anymore. Now these days, he mostly sits in his rooftop garden and drinks and talks to people walking by. And you glance up and looking up at Noble House, sure enough, there's so it's like 3 stories, and then there's a 4th and 5th, but on like the top of the 3rd story, there's like a section that's it's like a section, it's like a, it's basically, it's a big outdoor patio, and from even from the ground, you can see that there's a couple of trees, presumably that are growing in pots up there. And the vendor says, "Oh, it is interesting though. He did bring a few funerary statues in."
Bring them in to the house?
Brought them in. Yeah, he had some funerary statues like brought in recently. That's a little odd. I mean, he's a stonecutter. He could conceivably like make his own.
You mean like he took them off the street and just carried them in, or?
Well, no, he had. I mean, these are decent sized funerary statues. They're a good 3 feet tall. No, he had. No, they brought him. No, they were brought in on a cart. They had a tarp over them, and some, a few burly workmen, picked them up and brought them into the house. It's kind of weird. They were clearly funerary statues. I mean, yeah, they had tarps over them. Couldn't see who they were, but what else kind of statues would they be? And there's funerary statues everywhere. From big ones that are like 10 feet tall and look very regal to like little ones that are like 3 or 4 inches tall and just made of clay.
3. Interesting.
So, sorceress cabals.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I'm just trying to figure out if people know something that could be done with the bodies, and then also if they know any rumors about this guy using magic or being involved.
So I'm going to say you go into that shop that sells like magical reagents that I mentioned earlier, and the owner's connected, and you give the password, and he looks left and right, and behind the counter he opens a door, waves you in, because this is a meeting house of this is one of the meeting houses of one of the cabals you're a member of. And you go in, and there's some other sorcerers that that you're on friendly terms with that are there, because you're allied with a couple of these cabals. And in talking with them, get a couple of interesting pieces. The first is you can't, those who are attuned to the spirit realm can't quite detect it from the street. So there's no sniff of corruption here, but those who know true magic can feel it. If you go near the house and you just, if you open your third eye and look into the magic realm, you can tell there's something dark, there is something dangerous lurking within that house somewhere. So then there's another, and then we just cut to another scene of you in a similar looking but clearly different like back room that's decked out like a wizard's bar. And a different wizard tells you that there's a different wizard tells you that he's heard a rumor that a dangerous book of magic has gone missing, went missing a few months ago from the from Eversink, from the dark arts, or from the thaumaturgy department of the University of Eversink. And it's a book.
Tie in Forgotten Lore to maybe know a little bit more about that.
Oh, absolutely. He drops the title, which is Zelgrib's Notebook of Dissection. And you've heard of this, and I'm just going to say with Forgotten Lore, you have totally heard of this book. It's got a really bad reputation. This is a book of necromancy. This is a book that tells you this is a book all about like magic of the dead and how to like make undead creatures, including some really, really disgusting and really dangerous ones. And the problem with books of magic, anybody can read them. They're extraordinarily powerful in the hands of people who know what they're doing with magic. But in the hands of people who don't know what they're doing, they're extremely dangerous because they can put ideas into your head and open you up to influence by whatever magics have infused this book.
So yeah, that's obviously horrible news, and I am off to find everybody else and relay that.
So I'm going to say that like gathering this information probably takes the better part of a day. You get together at I'm just going to say one of your regular haunts. It's probably like, given who you are, it's probably on the edge of the Tangle. It's probably not deep within the Tangle. And you compare some notes. And you basically you share the information that you found. Oh, and also Quill comes back, and Quill comes back looking very self-assured, and saying and informs you that yes, indeed, Captain Cointongue did indeed was indeed not lying, and I found her treasure. This game has an abstract.
On him.
Exactly. This game has an abstract wealth system. So yeah, she had a cache that was worth five wealth, which is in one lump sum. That's like a small. That's a small fortune. And she cashed it in, and she like gives you, and she gives each of you some really high value coins. So you've basically each got +2 wealth each. That doesn't really matter because we're not going to get into that, but that's what she's been up to. I'm looking at the time. This game is scheduled to end in 15 minutes, so I think I'm going to hard frame it to a bit of a to a bit of a cliffhanger. We may or may not, which I don't know if, I'm guessing we're probably not going to pick it up at some point in the future, but it's like, it'll be like at the end of a it'll be like at the like part one of a TV series that was
The pilot
that got canceled before it set up the season premiere of the next season, and it got canceled. But so what is your approach? I think that'll color how we're gonna.
Well, I do have stone as one of my sorceress spheres, so I could probably ruin their day pretty fast with that. If their whole thing just sinks into the swamp.
Got it.
But
I mean, are you gonna try to break in? You're gonna try to like talk to the guy? You're gonna try to sneak in? Gonna try to just like get more information?
I feel like my instinct would probably be to sneak in and try to gather information without alerting him that we're on his trail or anything. That's probably the first step that I would do. I don't know if that sounds good to you.
Rod, what do you think we should do?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we need some evidence that he's committed a crime. So
Um,
if you can gather that, if we can gather that.
So how are you going to try to gain entry into this? How are you going to try to gain entry? Off the top of my head, you can try to jimmy the door. You could try to climb up to this, climb up the building to that 3rd floor patio. You could go into that. You can go into the basically the boathouse. Take a
I think
boat
probably
into
the
that.
boathouse is a good idea, because if something happens, we could claim like we didn't know that this was, like if we break into your house, we can't really say we didn't know that this was a house, but if we go in there, we could just say we were hiding from the cops or something, or
Got it.
some gang was chasing us.
Okay, so I think we're going to end this way. So the 3 of you, I'm going to say, yeah, the 3 of you get back on Giuseppe's boat, and he pulls you in, and yeah, it's basically a boathouse. You see the other boat that the corpse takers had loaded their corpses in, and it's docked there. There's a second dock. You pull up there. The 3 of you get out, and yeah, it's dank in here. It's it's dank. It's a little slimy. It's the canal water. Don't drink that. Probably don't want to swim in that either. And it's mildewy in here, but it's made of fine stonework. There's like a stairway going up. That seems to be the only way in or out. So you go up the stairway, and you get to a corridor where it continues down. It looks like there's another stairway up at the end, and there's also a passageway off to the right. And from that direction, you get you just get the stink of death. It reeks of rotting meat.
Do I get like magic sense from there?
I'm just going to say, yeah, I'm absolutely. And Lucrezia, you sense strong corruption down there with your spirit sight, and Accipitus, you just feel there's a source of magic power that's coming down there.
Yeah, I think ideal would be to steal this book back, since that's where all the damage is coming from, and then let the church handle anything that they feel like dealing with.
So you're going upstairs. You're going to go upstairs. You're going to investigate this this source of magic.
Source of magic.
Sure. If Giuseppe's still there, I'm going to send him to get church members. We're going to do a raid.
Excellent.
Yeah.
They go in the front. We'll handle business back here.
Right.
So I think this will be the final scene. So you walk into this room, and there is there's this pit it's this big room with a vaulted ceiling. It's all brick. There's a pit in the middle of the room, and that seems to be where the stench is coming from. A few feet back from the pit, actually with his back toward, no, I'm not gonna say with his back toward you, not facing you, with his side toward you, you can see that there's like a stone lectern. There's a big book on the lectern, and behind the book is a youngish man. It looks like he's probably in his early 30s, very well dressed, stylish haircut, and he's like thumbing through the book, and he thumbs through the book, and then he begins to make this incantation. He's reading this incantation from the book. And I think that's when you walk in, just as he is concluding this incantation. And Lucrezia, when you see him speak, it's weird. You don't see this as Accipitus, but you see this with spirit sight. As he is, you see his mouth moving, but the it's almost like superimposed over his actual mouth is this like spiritual image of a much bigger mouth with like fangs, and this like bigger mouth is extraordinarily expressive, And as you don't hear this, Cipitus, but you hear Lucrezia as he speaks. You're actually hearing like two different distinct voices speaking in perfect unison, as if there's a spirit in this guy that's controlling him. And as you walk in, he concludes this and says, those fools won't know what to hit them. And at that, there's a rumble, and you see an arm come up out of this pit. It's like a giant-sized arm, and as you look at it, the arm is actually made of lots and lots of different corpses. Like each of the fingers of this arm is actually an arm. Is actually like a human arm, and it's been stitched up together, like both with actual stitches and also it's kind of like melded together by magic. This arm comes up and puts itself and like sets it on the edge of the pit, and another similar disgusting arm comes up and sets itself out of the pit, and pushing itself up out of this depression is this horrific undead creature. It's perhaps about 12 feet tall, and it's made of dozens and dozens and dozens of corpses, all sewn together in the rough approximation of a human figure. And as Antonio laughs, this creature like raises its head, goes and turns its baleful gaze to you.
What's its tongue made out of? That sounds awful.
To be continued.
It's all yours, Acipitous.
And
I'm stealing that book and running. Just hike up my robes and go.
And that was Swords of the Serpentine. I'm sorry I had to rush the ending a little bit. I tried to abbreviate that fight at the first time, and every time I try to abbreviate it, it's still not quite enough to get to a conclusion. I think I've come to the conclusion that 4 hours is just not quite long enough to run this adventure. I think I ran this at an in-person convention 2 years ago, and they had 5 hour slots, and I was able to do it in 5, but 4 isn't quite long enough for it. I think this one breathes as a 2-shot.
Yeah, I could see that. No, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the system. It's a nice intro to, Gumshoe, and I like the setting a lot.
Well, thank you very much. This is the game I'm very excited for this. It's finally supposed to see print publication. They're shooting for Christmas. Again, I don't know if like the international supply chain problems and the international cardboard and paper shortages are going to eat into that, but last I checked, they seemed to be on track for an early December release. I've been playing from the Swords of the Serpentine Adventurers Edition, which is basically it's the pre-laid out edition. So it's got all of the final text. It just doesn't have all of the art elements yet. It's got some of the art elements installed, or like laid out, but it's not fully laid out yet. I'm thinking they're going to have the final PDF released. They've been saying about a month now for about the last 3 months. So hopefully that'll be out soon. Yeah, I pre-ordered this like 2 years ago. So I've been getting all of the updates.
A couple of those laying around. Yeah, no, it was good. Thanks.
So that was Swords of the Serpentine. Thank you very much. Normally, I'd like to do a Stars and Wishes debrief. We kind of don't really have time for that. I'm just going to say, like, I want to thank both of you for like really getting into these characters. Sometimes it's hard to run a pre-gen, but I think you totally got into them. I think we had some nice role play. You seemed to like jump right on. You seem to latch right onto the system and how it works.
Yeah, I'm sad Mario took off. I think once you figure out like just a number of dice and it was all written down in the thing, really isn't super crunchy.
Yeah, well, not every game's for everyone, and if you want to, and like we said, he invoked open door policy, which is 100% okay.
Yeah.
If you're not digging a game, life's too short to play in a game you're not really having fun with.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. See you guys later.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks everyone. This is a blast.
Good
Hope to
time.
see you around.
Have fun.
Oh, before we go, this is recorded. Would it be okay with you if I posted this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool. I'll double check with Mario as well, and I'll drop you. I'll put a link in the Slack, in the Gauntlet Slack if you're a member of it. I'll send you an email link as well.
Sure. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Have a great day, and I hope to see you around.